Michael John Sheridan grew up in a close-knit family in Jennings, Missouri. Family members say that his piety and love for the Catholic faith was evident from a young age.
I remember the May crownings especially because it was every May, and I can remember we had a beautiful statue of the Blessed Mother, and we would take her outside and we'd put flowers by a little altar for her, and we literally would walk around the yard like in a little procession and crown the Blessed Mother. So it was a very, very fond memory. He was always an altar boy, and we had a summer home that our fathers helped build. It was on a river here in Missouri, and every Sunday, no matter what, no matter how late we were up Saturday night, we'd get up and we'd go to 7 o'clock Mass at the church, and all of us would go, and many times he was an altar boy, and we could always, we always felt, wow, this isn't even his parish, and he's an altar boy out here at this church in the country.
At St. Louis University High School, he excelled academically and was involved in the school's drama club. The Jesuit priests at the school were not only teachers, but mentors, and they helped young Michael discern his vocation to the priesthood. After his freshman year at Rockhurst College, he made the decision to enter the seminary the following year.
I too was dating a girl in high school and into my freshman year of college. And when I had decided at the end of my first year of college that I was going to enter the seminary, I thought, well, I better say something. And so I met her and told her I had something rather important to say, and that I truly believed I was wanted to be a priest, and God was calling me to the priesthood, and that I would be entering the seminary in the fall. Now, this sounds like something I made up, but it's the truth. She looked at me and she said, really, I'm entering the convent in the fall.
He earned a bachelor's degree in philosophy at Cardinal Glennon College Seminary and went on to study theology at Kenrick Seminary.
We were very close to men in the class of 72, and as well as the class of 70, the year before us. So, there was a good camaraderie, a good spirit among the students at the seminary. Bishop Sheridan loved to act. He's a performer. Both he and Monsignor Ernst would perform in different plays and things that were put on at the seminary. And then afterwards, when we were priests, there's a program called Priestly Players, I think is the name of it. They would perform in presentations in the diocese.
He was ordained to the priesthood on May 29, 1971.
As you know, he's a big guy. He's always been tall, and back then he was good looking. But he has a great sense of humor, and that showed. And the people at my parish, St. Dismas, loved him. They really did. He was not able to stay there very long because he was needed for teaching responsibilities.
In 1974, he was sent to Rome to study at the Angelicum. He earned his license in sacred theology in 1976.
We were together in Rome as students. I was a seminarian at the North American College, and Bishop Sheridan was a priest in graduate studies at the Casa Santa Maria, the graduate house of the North American College. So our friendship was deep in there, see? And then we served as priests together, we served as bishops together in our beloved Archdiocese of St. Louis. And Mike, you're just a cherished friend and a model and an older brother. And I'm just grateful to be part of this tribute to you because it comes from my heart.
After returning from Rome, he taught for 10 years at Kenrick Seminary, where he earned a reputation as a highly effective teacher of the faith. In 1997, while serving as pastor of Immaculata Parish in Richmond Heights, Missouri, he was named an auxiliary bishop for the Archdiocese of St. Louis, along with Joseph Naumann. The two men were ordained bishops by Cardinal Justin Regali on September 3, 1997.
One of my claims to fame is being Bishop Sheridan's Episcopal twin. We were both consecrated auxiliary bishops for the Archdiocese of St. Louis on the feast of St. Gregory the Great, September 3rd, 1997.
It was interesting. The two people that I consecrated, they were both so tall. Bishop, he was tall, but Bishop Naumann was tall. Huh? The bishop was very, very good with the people. He was good with the priests. He was good with the people in their contact with me, and he was a great help.
I would like to use a baseball analogy. With regard to the ministry of priest and bishop, Bishop Sheridan is definitely a 5-tool superstar, destined for early admission in the Episcopal Hall of Fame. First, Bishop Sheridan is incredibly intelligent, as evidenced by his doctorate in theology and his service as a seminary professor. In terms of IQ, Bishop Sheridan definitely is the highest of the twins and the brightest. Bishop Sheridan is a great communicator. Being intellectually gifted does not always coincide with the ability to communicate knowledge. Bishop Sheridan is an excellent teacher. He's able to make some of the most complex truths of our faith accessible and understandable both to the seminarian and the person in the pew. I'm not certain if the seminary ever took polls of the student's choice as best professor, but if they did, Bishop Sheridan would have dominated the competition. Third, Bishop Sheridan is also an exceptional pastor. Oftentimes, learned theologians and gifted seminary professors do not always make great pastors. Bishop Sheridan was loved by his parishioners in all of his parochial assignments. He has a pastor's heart. Bishop Sheridan was not just knowledgeable about the theory of Catholicism, but he knew how to live the gospel. Whether it was consoling a grieving family, or visiting the hospital room of a sick parishioner, or providing spiritual direction to someone longing for holiness, or counseling a parishioner going through a difficult time, or preparing a couple for marriage, being present in the parochial school, Bishop Sheridan was always present and available to his parishioners. He strove to follow the example of the Good Shepherd, laying down his life in love for the welfare of his parishioners. It was difficult to follow Mike in a parish assignment, not because the parish was disorganized or in disarray, no, just the opposite. It was difficult to follow Mike because he set a high bar for the level of service parishioners expected from their pastor. Fourth, Bishop Sheridan is a man of joy. He is someone that people like to be around. He has a vast areas of interest. Mike is an engaging conversationalist, an extraordinary storyteller. I was privileged to participate in several vacation weeks with Mike and several of the other bishops that came out of St. Louis. Bishop Sheridan and Cardinal Dolan have some great stories from their years together in Rome. Bishop Sheridan has the type of personality that draws people to him. It's enjoyable to be in his presence. And fifth, finally, Bishop Sheridan is a man of prayer. His life is anchored in his friendship with Jesus. He celebrates the Eucharist with love and devotion. The Church always attempts to place her best priest in the seminary, assisting with the formation of future priests. Seminary priest professors have to be academically accomplished, but even more, they have to be excellent examples of living the priesthood. Most importantly, they must be priests who are faithful and fervent in prayer. Bishop Sheridan is a priest/bishop all-star. He has the 5 tools of great priest. He's intelligent, a master teacher and communicator, a loving pastor, a man of joy, and a man of prayer. I suspect he will go in the Bishop's Hall of Fame on the first ballot. I feel privileged to count him as a friend, mentor, role model, and my Episcopal twin, even if he got all the talents and gifts.
He became the ordinary of the diocese on January 30th, 2003, succeeding Bishop Richard Hannafin.
Oh, I remember that very clearly. In fact, it was Monday morning after Thanksgiving Day of 2001. I had just arrived at the office in the Chancery of the Archdiocese of St. Louis when the phone rang, and it was the Apostolic Nuncio calling from Washington and wishing me a happy Thanksgiving and asking me how I was doing and how I was feeling, and all the time knowing that that's not why he called me, to wish me a happy Thanksgiving. But then he quickly got to the news that the Holy Father was asking me to become the coadjutor bishop of Colorado Springs. At least I knew where Colorado Springs was. I had been here a couple of times briefly some years ago, but really had no real familiarity with the diocese. I think everyone thinks it's going to be very, very cold. Pack up your winter underwear, but I have found, as I've told to people on many occasions, this is a much milder climate than we find in the Mississippi Valley, where the winters as well as the summers can be pretty brutal. But my first thought, of course, is what is all this going to mean? My life is changing. Everything that I've known is coming to an end. I'm moving 800 miles away. And once those kinds of thoughts race through your mind, and I think this is true for many bishops, you begin to settle down and think that being a priest, being a bishop anywhere is essentially the same. It's a call to carry out the mission of the church, the mission of Christ, and if this is indeed where the Lord is calling me, he will give me the grace and what's needed to carry that mission out. So after the initial turmoil, there's a settling and things fall into place. And I certainly have not regretted from that moment to now the Lord's calling me to Colorado Springs.
I wasn't surprised to me that he would be an ordinary of a diocese. He certainly, as we knew then, as we know now, obviously, that he is a very talented man, capable of administration and teaching and guidance and shepherding. It was expected.
One of Bishop Sheridan's first priorities as Colorado Springs' new leader was to strengthen the diocese's Vocations program. He personally mentored and guided young men who were discerning a vocation to the priesthood.
I joined the seminary in 2003, right out of high school, and that was early on in Bishop Sheridan's time here in the diocese. And not having any other point of reference, I always found him very pleasant, very kind, and very accessible. He even gave me a cell phone number right away. When I went to the seminary, I realized that not every bishop did that with their seminarians, and that not every bishop was so accessible and interested in how his seminarians were doing. We got Christmas cards, we got phone calls, just updates, and he was very much in touch with us as seminarians, and that became more and more striking during my time in the seminary, not only seeing the contrast, but also getting to know him personally and how much stuff that he has to do, and yet he took his time and prioritized vocations. And now that I get to work with vocations as a priest, I see that that's continued. It wasn't just an anomaly for me and a handful of guys, it's for every seminarian. And so his real heart for vocations, which continues in his heart for his priests, in particular priestly fraternity, it's really stood out also how much time and energy he invests in trying to build up that sense of priestly fraternity with the diocese, that it's easy to sort of to feel lost, but he still picks up phone calls from his priests, he still is available to us one-on-one, and then the time we spend in our different leadership conferences and retreats and even just dinners at his house, those really do stand out as a great sign of his heart for seminarians and for priests.
I had, at one point, thought about joining this seminary and then didn't. I went to law school for a year. And I remember during that year, I was kind of wrestling with the idea of going to seminary. Towards the end of it, I called the diocese I called to see if I could take leave of absence from law school and go to seminary. And I got directed right to Bishop Sheridan, who was the vocation director. And I just remember him being very welcoming and open to my coming, even though it wasn't a very long period of time. I think I called him in May, but he didn't see any problems and got me going towards the seminary. So that's my first main memory of Bishop Sheridan. Then later, much later in my formation, after my third year of theology, when someone would normally be ordained a deacon, I really wasn't ready. I was really scared of becoming a priest. I had the sense that God was calling me, but I still was really kind of terrified. In a way, I was not entering into, I wasn't ready to embrace the priesthood with freedom. And although it was only going to be my diaconate ordination, that's when you make your commitments, is when you get ordained a deacon. So I went to Bishop Sheridan one day and I told him that I thought that God was calling me to be a priest and that I would force myself to get ordained because I thought it was the right thing to do, even though I felt all of this fear. And I told him what I was feeling. And he said, I think you need to take another year and to take a pastoral year and to discern. Now, I have always respected him very highly for that because he treated me like a father in that moment. Rather than kind of trying to push me forward, which is, to get another priest, he said, I know that you need to take this time. And that was true. I needed that pastoral year in order to enter the priesthood with freedom. And I think if I hadn't taken that, I don't know if I ever would have had that freedom in my vocation and in my life. And that was something that he gave me through acting as a father in that moment.
Hace varios años el padre Quesada me invitó a conocer la diócesis de Colorado Springs. Fue entonces cuando conocí al señor obispo Michael Sheridan y cuando lo vi, él estaba de pie y me pareció una persona enorme, un hombre muy grande y que impresionaba y claro, hasta miedo me dio. Pero fue cuando escuché su voz muy cálida que pues me dio mucha confianza y yo vi que él estaba muy interesado en escucharme, en saber de mí. Y de hecho en los siguientes días, él mismo en persona, personalmente llamó a los sacerdotes cuyos nombres yo di como referencia para que me recomendaran a la diócesis. Y eso es para mí muy importante, muy significativo, porque él estaba interesado en conocerme. Fue casi al final del año, en diciembre, en la primera semana, y el 23 de diciembre el padre Quesada me llama y me dice, Carlitos, te tengo tu regalo de Navidad. El obispo Sheridan te aceptó en la diócesis de Colorado Springs.
I think I first met Bishop Sheridan my first year in the seminary back in 1999. I was in the college seminary studying for the Archdiocese of St. Louis, and my home parish had a tradition that on Holy Thursday after Mass they had priests come over for a party or a celebration. And the associate pastor wanted me to help bartend and clean up and everything. So he told me that there was going to be Bishop Sheridan coming, whom I had never met and didn't know. And once he got in there, I finally said, so where's this bishop, or who is this bishop? He said, oh, he's right in there, Brian. Walked me in there, and that was the first time I met him. He was having fun, socializing in the rectory of Queen of All Saints, my home parish. And while I doubt that he necessarily remembers me, that was probably the first time I had a one-on-one interaction with a bishop. As time went on, he was relatively newly ordained. I think he was ordained a bishop in '97, so this was his second year. He continued to serve as the auxiliary bishop in the Archdiocese of St. Louis. Off and on, he would see me in the seminary, and I remember towards the end, or after about 7 or 8 years in the seminary, he stopped me and he said, Brian, when are you ever going to get ordained? And I felt like saying, yeah, that's exactly what I'm wondering. When am I ever going to get, this is a long process, Bishop. Towards the end of the seminary, my pastor in my home parish had changed, and it was one of his classmates, Monsignor Joe Simon. And so when Bishop Sheridan would come into town, as he was already the ordinary here in this diocese, he would stay with his relatives in that parish and celebrate Mass at that parish. And we would go out to dinner, and so I started to get to know him more and more at that point. And while maybe at first it was a joke, I think the Holy Spirit took on hold of it as he started asking, well, maybe you can come out and help my diocese and everything. So in the end, what ended up taking place was I had finished the seminary in the Archdiocese of St. Louis, was not ordained a deacon or a priest or anything. After getting permission from the Archbishop and obviously permission from Bishop Sheridan, came to this diocese. I was here for a few months, and those were difficult times. So I was very homesick. I didn't know very many priests. I didn't really know anybody. I did know the bishop, and he was very inviting, having me get to know some of the priests, trying to insert me in various different things throughout the diocese those first couple of months. I finally decided that I would ask if I could petition to become a deacon, because once you become a cleric, you can't really turn back or whatnot. So when I made that decision, I was very afraid, but the warmth he showed and the warmth that some of the friends or some of his priest friends in this diocese showed was very edifying. I was ordained in September of 2010 as a deacon, and that year he assigned me to St. Paul's Parish, which had 2 priests, a school, a pretty healthy situation, I would say, and that very much continued to strengthen not so much my vocation, I don't think that was ever in question, but just to make the right choice to leave my home and to come here.
Para mí, el sacerdocio pues es lo que yo más quiero y quería ser sacerdote en la vida. Es como ser tocado por Dios, el amor de Dios mismo, y pues solamente la cruz puede sostener el amor de Cristo Jesús, y fue una gracia compartir esta bendición con otros 3 compañeros, como hermanos, pues. Me sentí pues que estaba acompañado. La parroquia estaba muy llena, pero la compañía en sí que sentí pues fuera de mis compañeros sacerdotes, los otros 3 sacerdotes que fueron ordenados conmigo. Para mí es eso, compartir pues el amor de Dios.
I would say when the day finally came in June of 2011 with the other 3 men, it was, I can't even explain the feelings in which I had. I'm pretty certain I was in tears during a fair amount of it, just the joy. And after that, it was amazing. I never questioned if I should have moved here or not. I've surely never questioned being a priest. And when there's difficulties in a parish, or with say a grade school or with employees, he's there, his staff has been there, whether it's to vent or to give advice. He's been very fatherly and paternal in that.
The numbers of men in the seminary has gone up so much since Bishop Sheridan has been here. And I think in recent years, there's never been fewer than 10, surely, seminarians. I mean, we've just done so much better as far as young men feeling inspired to enter the priesthood under Bishop Sheridan's time here. And I think that his steadiness and his witness of fidelity to the church has just been really powerful in inspiring young men towards the priesthood.
It's been a joy for me to work with the bishop in the vocation office, especially promoting vocations to the diocesan priesthood. And I spent a lot of time talking to our seminarians, and one of the common threads in the last couple years has been a little bit of anxiety on their part, and even real sadness at the thought of Bishop retiring, because the seminarians they really love the bishop. They feel his paternal support. They know that he's praying for them, that he's rooting for them. And it's been great to work with him, because we're really striving to build a vocation program where we take really the best candidates. We want the best priests for the future of our diocese. And we're so blessed right now to have a lot of men who are interested in the priesthood. And a lot of that is because they know that the #1 vocation director is the bishop. They feel the emphasis that he puts on having quality priests, the support that he shows to his clergy, and that makes a huge difference to guys. And it's definitely another legacy that he's leaving, is the number of priests he's ordained, the number of men we have studying, and the number of men who are really interested in discerning God's call.
In 2005 and 2006, Bishop Sheridan established 2 new diocesan offices, the Office of Marriage and Family Life and the Office of Hispanic Ministry. Christian and Christine Meert were appointed co-directors of the Office of Marriage and Family Life.
Hello, Bishop. You remember, it all started in June 2005 with an ad hoc committee that you put together and you presided to write the marriage prep requirements for the diocese. And you wanted to make sure that all engaged couples, wherever they were in the diocese, would receive what they deserved to build Christ-centered family. We are very grateful for the opportunity you gave us to launch the Office of Marriage and Family Life for the diocese, and we thank you for your trust, your guidance. It was an honor to serve you and to serve the diocese for the greater glory of God. Thank you.
I will always remember the first time you came over for dinner at our place. One of our daughters had colored her hair blue, and we were quite embarrassed. And then the next time you saw her, she had colored her hair orange. But you still trusted us and made us feel really welcome in the diocese and helped us throughout these years to really serve better and bring out the potential we had to build this Office of Marriage and Family Life. Thank you, Bishop. Merci.
The Office of Hispanic Ministry was led by Father Francisco Quezada until Javier Cervantes was named Director of Hispanic Ministry.
Definitivamente, la presencia de la comunidad hispana y la actividad relacionada con ella se ha multiplicado en los últimos 9 años y ha crecido en términos de programas de formación, ha crecido en términos de servicios, de ministerios y de muchas otras cosas más. Sin embargo, lo que ha permitido que esto suceda ha sido el apoyo incondicional de nuestro obispo Sheridan. Realmente, y para hablar con la verdad, sin su apoyo hubiera sido muy poco o nada lo que se pudiera haber hecho. Ahorita mencionaba yo el apoyo que nos dio, que nos ha dado el obispo Sheridan. Pero lo sobresaliente del apoyo que él nos ha brindado es que ha sido un apoyo no solo incondicional, sino muy completo. Él nos ha apoyado con su tiempo, con su liderazgo, nos ha apoyado con un presupuesto y nos ha apoyado sobre todo con un acompañamiento. Él ha estado con nosotros en grandes momentos, también como en el diario caminar de nuestro ministerio. Un ejemplo que yo quisiera darles es cuando el obispo Sheridan tomó la decisión de que nosotros como diócesis, como ministerio hispano, participáramos en el 5º encuentro nacional. Este fue algo muy grande, fue un proceso de 4 años, pero durante esos 4 años el obispo Sheridan estuvo acompañándonos, estuvo caminando junto con nosotros en este proceso. De hecho, él nos acompañó en actividades no solo a nivel diocesano, sino también a nivel regional y a nivel nacional. Esto aquí fue una inversión de tiempo bastante importante y gracias a Dios lo tuvimos a él siempre de nuestro lado.
Bishop Sheridan was instrumental in building community support for the construction of the Marian House Soup Kitchen and the Richard C. Hanafin Center.
Yeah, I think at the time, I remember thinking how incredible it was to have something new going up for people who were struggling. So, and maybe that's because you envision soup kitchens being run out of basements or old houses like the Marian House, and there's certainly nothing wrong with that. But this was a brand new building. As it started to come together, it was a gorgeous building right at the entrance to our city, and I think that I remember that being the message, that we were bringing something that was new and designed for people in the most need in the community. And so oftentimes new things are built for the folks who can afford them and are going to pay a lot of money to use them and that type of thing. So that piece sticks with me about when this building rose up. I think there was certainly nostalgia for that old building. I can remember that, just having been in the community, and people were very attached to it, and it had a history beyond the soup kitchen. But that sense of newness and the sense of moving forward and the innovation that surrounded this facility at the time, and I think still does. But Catholic Charities at the time had said we're gonna be a one-stop shop for our homeless right in the middle of downtown, and that was, I think that was special.
I know that the property there was, which is just across Bijou, behind St. Mary's Cathedral, where the old convent sat. That property owned by the diocese, we ceded to Catholic Charities for this work, but it was really the generosity of many people and their significant donations that allowed that building to be built, both the soup kitchen and the Hannafin Center. I more than once spoke about how proud I am. That is really a gem in the diocese.
Bishop Sheridan has supported the work of Catholic Charities without question throughout his time in the diocese. And so if we ask him to bless a new site or to come talk to donors or to give a speech at a gala, he does so immediately and without question. And that just, it gives us the ability to do that work, to know that we have the support of our bishop.
Bishop Sheridan also took steps to build up the diocese's permanent diaconate formation program.
Well, the diocese already had a deacon program, and I think it was a good deacon program. I think I had two predecessors historically, and I respect both of them for the work that they did. I think the bishop wanted to see a curriculum that looked more like the curriculum you'd see at the seminary. So he wanted the courses organized into area specialties and regular courses, that they would have assigned credit hours and whatnot. And that was right up my alley because I had been an academic dean at that point for 18 years. So I lived and breathed courses and curricula and accreditation and assessment, all these bizarre education things. Well, I would go back to the Acts of the Apostles, and the origin of the diaconate. The deacons were instituted as a ministry basically to serve at table. So they're the ones that take care of the concrete needs for charity in the community. And I see that, I see that. Another of their functions is to preach, and the bishop has always been supportive of their preaching. And I have to say that has been my primary focus as director of the program. I wanted to produce good preachers. And I'm proud of the men that I've worked with. I've heard all of them preach, and it's edifying. It's really edifying.
Under Bishop Sheridan's leadership, the diocese's Respect Life activities expanded greatly. In 2012, the first Bishop's Respect Life dinner was held in Julie Penrose Hall, and it has become an annual event.
Well, I think the very first thing, as far as the diocese goes, was a letter from Bishop Sheridan inviting me to chair the Respect Life dinner that they were starting. There was plenty of support for an initial inaugural event. We had 250 people attend, and that was limited by the Julie Penrose Hall's capacity, because that's where the first one was. And then it just grew from there. Everybody was excited, number one, just to see it come together. And I can recall specifically Bishop's mandate, if you will, that it's not to be a fundraiser, it's education. And that's a great mission for that type of deal. He is unwavering in support for pro-life causes. From my first interaction with him on the dinner, and the fact that he wanted it to be educational rather than a moneymaker. So he wants to reach people and help them to understand the importance of being pro-life and not just to turn their head away and their brain away from some of the things that are going on that are against our tenets and truths of the Catholic Church. And of course, recently, this is very recent as far as the maternity home, he has supported that. He's all in his support on that. So that's great to see. So all the way through.
Catholic schools have always been a top priority for Bishop Sheridan, and he worked tirelessly to expand Catholic education in the Diocese of Colorado Springs.
We were approached, Bishop and I were approached by two couples that were from, at that time, St. Mark's, and said that one of them had grandkids and they wanted a Catholic school. And for 2 years we met with this group, kind of planned, did some visioning, and then I said it's time to open it, and we opened it as a preschool, and we did put it at Pax Christi instead of St. Mark because we did a kind of an assessment, and there was more space and actually more need at that time at Pax Christi. So we started St. Catherine Drexel, and for the first 2 to 3 years, we were serving about 15, 16 kids. And it takes usually 3 to 5 years for a school to really hit its growth, the word to get out, that kind of stuff. Plus you have to stabilize, get the right people, the right teachers, etc. But currently they have almost 60 preschool kids. They've added kindergarten, first grade, and they're redoing the basement, and actually we need to build a school. We need a school building, but right now we're still working in the basement of Pax Christi and reworking the basement. So it's growing. They'll have about 90 kids, next year. So that's exciting. When I started serving in Catholic schools, from the time I was a principal to assistant superintendent to a superintendent, I truly believe that God has placed the right people on the path. And part of your job as a minister and a servant in Catholic education is to invite those people in to share their gifts. And certainly Bishop Sheridan has been a true supporter, a mentor, a confidant. He's helped, he's advised, but most of all, he truly has supported, and we share a passion and a belief. And so I could not have asked for a better shepherd for the last 10 years.
Bishop Sheridan was also committed to expanding the diocese's ministry to college students. In 2013, Father Kyle Ingalls became the first priest working full-time in campus ministry. Over the next 7 years, he and Bishop Sheridan worked toward the construction of a Catholic student center near the University of Colorado at Colorado Springs.
Bishop has a real heart for evangelization, and I think he's realized for a long time how important it is to do more for young people, especially for college students. And that 18 to 23-year-old range is a time when time in people's lives when we lose a lot of people from the faith. They leave the church, and most of them sadly really don't come back. So it's been a real joy for me to work on building the Newman Center. And the project, there's no way the project would have been finished without Bishop Sheridan's support. He's been the number one champion, the number one cheerleader, and really the one who has really kind of taken the project from a theory to a reality. So I'm really excited, and the college students are excited, and there's no question that without Bishop's support and his prayers and him working with me and with other diocesan staff and donors and pastors, we would never have been able to do this. So I'll always be really grateful to him for that, and that's a real legacy, if you ask me, being able to leave that as something that future generations will benefit from, and that will benefit the future of our entire diocese.
We've heard from just a few of the thousands of people whose lives Bishop Sheridan has touched over his years of priesthood and being our bishop. There are many other ministries and organizations and events that have grown under Bishop Sheridan's leadership, including the following.
Returning God's Gifts Appeal, Catholic Legacy Society, Diocesan Pastoral Council,
Prison Ministry, Safe Environment Training, Interfaith and Ecumenical Outreach, new parishes have been established and churches built, young adult ministries, radio and television shows, the Colorado Catholic Herald newspaper, for which he wrote a regular column, the Colorado Springs Council for Black Catholics, the Order of Malta, and the Equestrian Order of the Holy Sepulchre, the Goddess, police and fire department personnel through the annual Blue Mass, Bishop Sheridan's also participated with the other bishops of the state of Colorado and the Colorado Catholic Conference.
Catholic Pastoral Center employees, and the Catholic Center at the Citadel.
On behalf of the diocese and myself as the Vicar General, I would like to include a personal thank you to Bishop Sheridan for his almost 20 years of good and faithful service to our diocese. He's done a tremendous job, has been thoughtful and kind not only to myself but our priests and so many people. So thank you, Bishop Sheridan. We appreciate all you've done for us. God bless you in your retirement, and we wish you many happy years of fulfilled retirement.
I don't want to do this. I don't want to talk about my good friend Bishop Michael Sheridan's retirement. It's tough to picture the church that we both love without his active, generous, faithful, zealous ministry. But has to come. After all, he is 5 years older than I am, and my day will come pretty soon. But I just want to unite with all of you in letting Bishop Sheridan know how much we love him and how grateful we are to the Lord for the grace of the vocation that he gave him over 50 years ago. If there's one thing good, I hope you have a bit more free time and you can come up and spend some time with me in here in New York. I'd put you to work in a second, okay? So God bless everybody. Thanks for letting me participate in these accolades to my friend Bishop Sheridan.
Bishop Sheridan, I'm very happy to have this opportunity to express to you all of my best wishes in this, the 50th year of your priestly life and ministry, and to thank you in a special way for your friendship since we first came to know each other in the Conference of Bishops, and especially when I was the Archbishop of St. Louis. You were always so very encouraging to me with regard to my service there. I assure you of my daily prayers for you, and I want to thank you for being such a faithful and generous priest and bishop. May God bless you with many more years.
Mike, thanks for all your encouragement and support, especially with the church's pro-life efforts. Thanks for being a great bishop for God's church. Thank you.
Bueno, este es un momento muy interesante, muy importante, y tengo muchas cosas que quisiera expresar, pero a lo mejor solo dos palabras pueden, y ojalá que puedan expresar todo mi sentir. Y esas palabras serían muchas gracias. Yo quiero darle las gracias al obispo Sheridan por su liderazgo, por sus sabios consejos, por su acompañamiento y sobre todo por su manera muy personal, muy individual de estar con nosotros. Yo le quiero decir a Obispo Sheridan, muchas gracias desde lo más profundo de mi corazón, gracias por lo que ha hecho por el Ministerio Hispano, gracias por lo que ha hecho en mí. Pues ese sería mi último mensaje, que Dios lo bendiga y gracias por todo una vez más.
Bishop Sheridan, I appreciate the opportunity you've given me to serve you and this young diocese in the ministries that you've given me. And I want to say this on behalf of your mother, Archdiocese. We in St. Louis are very proud of you. We miss you still in St. Louis, and we're very proud of the work that you've done here in Colorado Springs. You've earned these years of retirement. I hope you have good health, and I hope you have a good time.
Thank you, Bishop, for being a great shepherd and giving people something to look forward to as far as emulating you in your humility, integrity, and holiness. Thanks, Bishop.
Bishop Sheridan, I want to thank you for your kindness, for your confidence in me, for accepting me first in the diocese, therefore accepting my petition for holy orders. Thank you so much for all the confidence that you have shown to me all these years of priesthood. May God bless you today, always, your ministry. Thank you so much, Bishop.